This past weekend, ABC World News Tonight did something they now regret, dropping them firmly into the sights of the Trump administration, which can now point to the network as peddling fake news.
The video in question first appeared on ABC's Sunday evening broadcast.
This video right here appearing to show Turkey's military bombing Kurd civilians in a Syrian border town.
Compounding the error, Tom Yamas then tossed to foreign correspondent Ian Pennell, who voiced over the same video.
This video, obtained by ABC News, appears to show the fury of the Turkish attack on the border town of Tal Abyad 2 nights ago.
Almost immediately, the website Gizmodo reported that Twitter users were comparing the ABC video to YouTube video from a Kentucky gun range. The ABC video also appeared to have been altered. Shortly after it aired again on Good Morning America, ABC issued a statement saying, "We've taken down video that aired on World News Tonight Sunday and Good Morning America this morning that appeared to be from the Syrian border immediately after questions were raised about its accuracy. ABC News regrets the error." But nowhere do they explain what happened. And as critics point out, ABC News reaches millions of people a day.
The damage is already done. And not everyone is going to see the correction on Twitter, which is buried deep in their feed.
An ABC spokesman told us, "We are continuing to investigate."
I'm actually a little flabbergasted that the network doesn't want to be more transparent about this, that they don't want to explain what happened. Maybe they will, because the spokesperson was very civil to me, but he basically just reissued the statement that they gave last week. But once they find out what happened, because they were attributing it to a source. They said that the tape came from a source. I can remember that the short time I was at ABC, 2 pieces of video came into the transom that I had to go look at. One purported to show the mutilated body of Liberian leader Samuel Doe. The other, the mutilated body, remember when that American soldier was dragged through the streets of Mogadishu? We didn't know what it was. And those things came in on beta tape back in those days, or VHS or whatever it was. You didn't just slap something on the air saying what it was without knowing exactly what it was or what the source was. So I'm surprised it got on the air in the first place, and I'm doubly surprised, especially in this day and age of fake news, that they don't want to be more transparent.
Yeah, I'm hard-pressed to go beyond what you just said. I don't see how they can get away without explaining what happened. There may also need to be consequences. I'm loath to I've made plenty of mistakes in my own time. I'm loath to call for someone being suspended or losing their job. But you got to own it. And do we know if they gave a statement on the news itself about this mistake, or did they just go with Twitter? Because that's bogus, too. You need to do everything you can to reach everyone who consumed the initial bad information.
Well, Tom Lamas, I should say, is not on again until this Sunday.
Okay.
But I'm sure David Muir didn't want to touch it. So Lamas is on this weekend. We'll see if he does.
And as you said, in the political context right now, it makes us all look kind of terrible.
I do want to say, can you imagine being in Kentucky and having that happen down? I hope they put up flyers around that town in Kentucky to let people know
every
that
2 years they do it,
because that is a terrifying looking video. But you're right, it's completely mysterious how it would have gotten in. I don't know if long term you can say this is some sort of a consequence of budgets being pulled back. They don't have foreign correspondents or people they can contract with everywhere to be on the scene, and yet there's this desire to still pretend that you're on the scene or sort of show news from where it's happening.
Because that's the worst part of it. Ian Pennell, who is overseas, said it also purported to show, but he should have known.
Yeah, and it was so the transparency also wasn't there in terms of we're not here. This is video that they said we have obtained it, but that's that's very hedgy passive language.
Understand, it's not necessary for people to believe this information in order to weaken democratic institutions. You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
Propaganda, in other words, a false narrative for whatever specific purpose, is now much, much easier to perpetrate on the people.
Due to the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which went into effect on July the 2nd, 2013, scripted and orchestrated propaganda can now be presented to the American public as factual news.
And even after the truck blew up, an inferno inside, magically, his ID and cell phone was recovered so they could get the manifesto out to the world.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories without checking facts first.
So in 2013, it was legalized in the United States to propagandize its citizens. What? Like, that's some scary third world stuff going on. That's the kind of stuff that people use to topple governments, to take away freedoms.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. Almost a decade ago, propaganda was legalized in the United States with the passage of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which you probably never even heard of. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was buried in the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act for a good reason, because it repealed the 1948 Smith-Mundt Act, which authorized the State Department and mainstream media to engage in propagandizing foreign countries, but it prohibited releasing that same propaganda in America for public consumption. This prohibition was lifted when the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was signed into law by Obama.
Very simply, Obama gave it a reboot in 2012. So, no matter how outrageous the propaganda may be, it's completely legal.
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in. You got to catapult the propaganda. You got to catapult the propaganda.
A country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.